Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Are we okay?
Yes.
It's nice to be here. Paula has been with the work of Wise Earth Ayurveda for a very long time. And a sadhaka, who is one who performs the work of creating peace and inner harmony. What is peace and what is inner harmony? We can talk about so many things tonight, but I'd really like to savor this experience and sharing with you by just being here and soaking up your beautiful vibes. I've been on tour for the last couple of years with a work called Living Ahimsa. And what we do in Living Ahimsa is share more than teach the work of inner harmony. Ahimsa means peace. It means that which we create within ourselves. It doesn't only mean non-violence, but it gives us the understanding that we can and have the power, the Shakti, the absolute ability to mitigate violence. If we understand how to use our prana, our breath force, our life force in a way that protects all. It's a very difficult thing to understand that power, because when we look at the unmitigated violence around us, the almost infallible set of challenges that humanity faces, and also our own challenges, personal obstacles that we have to keep crossing, the rivers that sometimes appear like tsunamis. We say to ourselves, how is it possible that I have the power to mitigate this? But we do. That is what Ahimsa is about. It's about learning who we are from the very magnificent core of the Shakti. It's about knowing that each one of us is an independent, organized set of intelligence that has a karma that flows through us, be they from ancestors or other lives, be it from our experiences of the past. Karmas are like habituated behaviors that have become inured in a sense that we need to live them. They're neither good nor bad. They are what they are. They can bring us joy and happiness. At the same time, they can bring us sadness and difficulties. But when we find the karmas that bring us sadness and difficulties, it is good to understand that if it came to you, it's your karma. An elder once told me I do wonderful work, or they allow me to visit them and do wonderful work when I'm there and in their own presence with their own life. She once shared a wonderful story. And I should say it's more like an idiom or a metaphor. That if it doesn't have your name on it, don't pick it up, was the gist of her story. Do you know how many times we take on karmas that are not ours? We imbibe, we interchange, we exchange, we hook into, because of sometimes infatuation, sometimes attachment, sometimes desire. And these are all human will, it's fine. We have a human body, we are dying, we are fallible. And so things will happen. things will happen that's not exactly the response or the action that comes from your knowing you are the one absolute divine, meaning the higher self. But there is no higher and lower self. I want you to know that too. It's not that we are going to talk chakras, doshas, or anything else here. We have had enough terminology. I think we would all agree now that yoga came to America to help America, but America has changed yoga. Thank you. That was the heading that Time magazine had on their cover. Do you remember some years ago? And what were they really saying? I thought it was a very Vedantic heading. You can laugh. I'm not always this serious. Hello. Om Namah Shivaya. So what exactly is Ahimsa about? We were saying that we have the power to mitigate any form of violence, but it is not an easy task, right? But we do have that power. I realized we were sitting at the Berks County Women's Center yesterday, a place in Sarita's neighborhood where I go from time to time to visit with women who are in a safe space, in a safe house, so to speak, from domestic violence. And what I understand when I visit communities where violence is prevalent, women and men, children, that our human nature understands that we do have that power, no matter who we are. We don't really need an education to understand that. In fact, if we do have much of an education, sometimes it gets in the way of the basic, simple understanding that we are consciousness. And that we do also have a physical body that is perishable. And in reconciling these two incredible understanding, we can come to the understanding that we can negotiate both in an amazing way. And we make mistakes because we are human. We fall down so many times, and I always say to women, don't worry about that. It brings you closer to Mother Earth. It brings you closer. Your ear brings you closer to her heart to listen to what she has to say to you in order to make you go forward and get up again with strength. So I shan't be talking about how we should not fall, nor will I tell you that falling it should not happen. We can fall 1,000,000 trillion times, it's okay. But it has to be okay to those of us who fall. We have to know it's not something to not like about ourselves. It's not something to put aside as the unnecessary, the extraordinary that does not belong to me. But it is something that we must own and we must embrace. And as soon as we can embrace, I am falling apart, I am vulnerable, I am more fragile than I thought I was, I am whatever you feel that you could never speak or say. Be it I am feeling battered, I am feeling overwhelmed, I am feeling put upon, I am feeling angry, I am fearful, I am this and that. How many of us really put our long arms around that and embrace it as tightly as we can? As we would your grandchildren. How often do we use the same measure to embrace our vulnerability? And why not? What is Ahimsa? That we are born strong, stay strong, and die strong? No. Is Ahimsa the peace that the society must first have before I can mirror it? No. Is Ahimsa each mind must think the same way and have the same understanding for peace? No. Is Ahimsa building multi-trillion-dollar worth of industry upon the bodies of the poor and calling it health? No. Is Ahimsa about food for me and not food for all? No. Is Ahimsa about holistic for the privileged only? No. What is Ahimsa? It is that I am one, not with you, but you and I are one. And really, if we understand that, we'll understand how important it is to understand that we need something that helps us to remember to remember. That's a good one, because we forget. But it's not because we forget because we don't remember. It's simply that we forget because we don't have anything to remind us to remember. Look, I spent many blissful years, I have nothing to complain about, with the cows, chanting with them in the pastures, flying with the birds, meditating with the deer, working with contractors who shoot the deer. And I have traveled many, many miles by plane and trains and buses and cars and walking on my feet for 30-something years now in this work since having survived ovarian cancer. And I understand that life can only get simpler when we surrender. Surrender to what? To the divinity, to the understanding that everything is God. Everything. Our disease is God. Our misfortunes is God. Our heartaches are God. Everything that strips us apart is more God than everything that puts us together. But all of it is God. Do you know that? Do you really know that? Can we really know that? That when we are stretched and stripped by loss, when we are broken and cracked by despair and absolute misery, that is God. When we are flying under the wind of the wings of angels, and we are ecstatic for all of the things given to us, the privilege of being human and of becoming more human every day, that is God. There is no separation. Isn't it wonderful to know that? How then can we judge? If we judge, we are saying that is less than God. Is anything less than God? No. The beauty is we can make mistakes and change, because I understand that that which I have done is God as well. But there is also the understanding of dharma. How do we posit everything is God in terms of destructive actions, with everything is God in terms of constructive action? How do we do that? It seems irreconcilable, doesn't it? It seems like water and oil. Well, did you know that the swan represents Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom? You always see Hamsa. When we do the deeper mantras for consciousness and bringing more awareness or chit to the fore, we use the mantra that talks about this exquisite bird, the swan, because the swan, by its mysterious nature, has the ability to separate milk from water. Amazing, isn't it? Meaning the power of discernment, or viveka, vairagya. That too is how we understand the beginning of reconciling. This is very deep, isn't it? It may be too deep a topic before Memorial Day weekend. I think ways we can start reconciling this is understanding that, put simply, embrace the vulnerable. Embrace the unappealing. Embrace the fractured. Embrace it all as soon as we can. Knowing that in the human body we have likes and dislikes. We have habituated behaviors from ancestry karmas and some 68 lakh lives before. Do you want to know how much 68 lakhs is? Swamiji, would you mind telling everyone what 68 lakhs is?
68 lakhs is 6,800,000.
Thank you. I always got confused by that. 6,800,000 is the approximate number of births that you take according to the Vedas in order to come into this understanding, Tattvamasi, I am that, Tadastu. Aham Brahmasmi, I am that consciousness, that one, that entirely reconcilable paradigm of I am falling apart, I am whole. I was telling my story of the last year, 2 years or so, countless time, timeless time, to someone who said, oh my gosh, you can't tell that story to the public, they'll think you've lost your mind. It was a personal experience story. And the only thing I could think of is, oh my God, why would that matter? I'm already insane. How can an insane person lose their mind? What am I saying? I'm already free. I love my freedom. Because it was bought for me by the divinity in so many, from the goddess herself. And the journey is just mine to walk. And yours too. I am not different from you in that way. The absolute inner freedom that we take, and we take a hold of, because that price has already been paid by our Divine Mother, Divine Father, whichever way you want to look at it, whichever name you use. It is all well and good, but we have that divinity and power within us that is called the Shakti. And the beautiful thing about this all is that it has already been paid for us. Did you know that? And all we have to do is walk the journey, crossing the threshold, because we can stand in the dark for a long, long time and see the light right in front of us, and something stops us from crossing it. And it could be called fear, or fear, or fear, or fear, or fear. But it is right there. At one point when I had difficulty crossing it, I was counting on a different crossing I had when I was much younger, the age of 21, when I crossed over death into that light. Didn't know how I did it, because I didn't do it. The Divine Mother was kind enough to catapult me over, and I figured that out a long time later. And this time I was very angry when it happened, and I said, what's going on with you? You're taking a break or something? You know, have you gone on a vacation? Where are your arms? Your guiding light. The light is there, but I'm not seeing you. I've even accused Shiva of giving me somebody else's karma at one point. Are you sure this one is mine? You know, you're a little preoccupied with the dance you do and all these chelas of yours that are constantly inebriated, and it's quite possible that your samadhi is so deep that you don't remember that this isn't my karma. I can assure you, no mistakes are made. The account is flawless. It's like an old-fashioned bookkeeper. The books are accurate. So I then began to be humbler in my approach of crossing that threshold. And in the humility, I prayed for her to just knock me unconscious, but knock me forward so I can fall over the threshold. And so when I get up, I'll be on the other side. Okay. However we get there, we got to get there. And if you have some humor along the way, it's good, because it reduces the fear of crossing. But this time she did come to me again and she said, I am with you, but this time you have to walk the journey. I cannot walk it for you. Look, I remember I was brought up in New York City from the age of 16, and I remember it was a wonderful mafia mantra. It's called, it's always an inside job. The only way we can cross the passages of time and our own karmas, whatever they may be, is to embrace them soon as they become yours. Not worry, not waste too much time. Human nature, human self, the fallibility of our own self in this physical form, psychological form, almost demands that we look back and see who's doing what to whom, when, where, how. And it's all right, give a little bit of time to that, because the body and the mind and everything needs to be satisfied that you did look back, you did kind of understand what's going on behind you. Somehow it becomes important that we understand it. I'm not going to lie and say it's not important, it is. So let us understand that if we have to look back, if we have to feel that craving, sometimes it's just a joy to wallow. Sometimes those of you who are kapha-oriented would know that wallowing has its own bliss until you start getting blisters, and then you're like, oh. The joy of wallowing. My new book, let us not beat ourselves up for staying in that wallow too long, but there is some pleasure in it sometimes. You know, like a punching bag or kickboxing or one of those things. It's all right. Depends on our personality. We need to express them. But know that it's taking time away from the real job to be done, the real task ahead. But take your time if you need it. Just understand there's a task to be done while I'm wallowing. I'll gauge the time and see how much time I will wallow versus go ahead and do what needs to be done. Just so we know there's something that needs to be done, we'll be fine. Then you can sort of shift around in that space and then build up the confidence or courage that it takes to just go and get it done. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Everything has its time. My mother always said that to me. Everything has its time. So don't beat yourself up too much. If your pitta-loving friends are like flying across the threshold, in your opinion, that is, they saw light but at the end of the tunnel and they're flying through it, but what they didn't realize is the train is coming. Some light, okay. The Vata type missed the tunnel completely. They had no darkness to go through. And the Kapha type is sluggishly and slowly wallowing. Okay, fine. But they will make it through that threshold and it will be the real light. Understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It may appear that someone is flying past you. It may appear that you're just struggling to get there, and it may appear that no Vata types are in that tunnel because they actually did miss that tunnel. But what is the truth is, what are we looking around, looking what others are doing? We'll never see the truth of what is in another person's heart. We'll never understand the footprint of another person. Never, never, never. Did you know that? So why bother to think you're competing? Why bother to think you're looking at something? The reality is different. Your dreams are different than my dreams. Our needs are different than each other's needs. Our presence is totally different from each other. I could be full of God knows what, I'm sitting here and someone is doing something else and they are full of their own dreams and Why should it be in consonant with each other? It doesn't have to be. Why should we expect it to be in concert with each other? It doesn't have to be. The more we waste time dictating what other people should do, the more wallowing we are doing. It's simply in that space of nonsense. But nonsense is good sometimes. I love comedy. It's a brilliant, brilliant way to get past fear. Most great comedians became great comedians because they had a lot to deal with, but they were honest about it. And they were able to posit it in a way that just cracks the shell of the fear or the anger or whatever else. Did you know that? And we all love comedians as we do music because it breaks open something inside of us. And so whichever way we take, are you getting the picture? Mm-hmm. If the karma falls from the ceiling and comes to your lap, it is yours. There's no accident about it. Doesn't matter who was standing on top of the ceiling when it fell. If they walked away unscathed, it's their karma to be unscathed. Can we understand our life that way? We have to. What did I say? It was so amazing that the deepest statement made to a handful of exquisite women who are going through their dark passages right now of being made to feel like victims with violence in their life at the shelter, at the safe house. Someone said, if someone is obsessed at following me and intending harm, and continue, and husband was, even though she's in the safe house, he continues to attempt to reach out his anger, the tentacles of anger and violence. What am I to do? I can't stop it. I mean, I can't control him. No, we can't control anyone. Absolutely not. The police force can't control anything. Look at the fire department. We stopped across the street on the way in because I do a certain ceremony called Agnihotra, a very little one, tiny one. And basically, the sunrise, sunset, and we were traveling, and so Sarita was driving, and I said, pull up over here, it's about time to do the Agnihotra. She says, you know what I love about you, Mother, is that you never have any you don't stand on ceremony, you're so simple. Anywhere is fine for us to do this ceremony, and so we pulled in the parking area of a bank. Little bit of cow down the brass, fire pot. So the Agnihotra got lit, okay. It was so beautiful, it created such an incredible fine atmosphere and air, and as we were leaving I said, no brouhaha, it's so quiet, it's so serene, isn't this amazing? Let us cherish this absolute serenity. Before the word was even out of my mouth, woo, woo, fire department. 3 police cars, the fire department. Now, here's the beauty of the Vedic rituals and culture. It is so intelligent. The cow dung that we use gets cool in no time at all. Burns to ashes, gets cool. The kund, within a minute, is cold. No sign whatsoever of fire. We poured the ashes onto the thing. It was absolutely a little bit of water to ensure that nothing will happen. Don't worry, I'm not asking you to go and light fire in the parking lot. We forgot that banks have cameras and all that.
True story.
Anyway, it all ended very well. So we're driving with her red bug, which is called Bindi, out of the parking area. Boom, 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 they're coming by us. And one turned around and started following her. And she's going, we're in trouble. I said, no, we're not. Let me get my yogurt. I need to think and basically pray. So I started eating my yogurt. I said, no, I think we're going to be fine. They're not following you. Don't worry about it. Then she's going in the wrong direction, and we turn back around and we're looking. We passed the scene of the crime, and there are all these law enforcement and examining the spot for the fire that they saw in the cameras, probably the back parking cameras. There's absolutely nothing. And they just didn't notice her red car. We were invisible.
We were totally invisible. It's true.
The power of intent. In fact, in that particular ceremony, I remember saying right before I said it's so serene, that any violence that comes to me, may I understand it, to me personally, meaning to you personally, may we understand it as, may I transform it into a sacrifice for the benefit of all of humanity. And I thought, wow, that's beautiful, right? So it was really an incredible intent that just came as a result of Agnihotra. The cow dung, by the way, is phenomenal. It's organic. And it clears the air better than anything else, the air of the mind, that is. And the ghee clarifies it as well. So anyway, long story. And I've not added anything up as yet. I've left a lot of hanging shads all over the place. But I think we understand. And I said to the one woman who is frightened of her spouse reaching her, even behind incredible security, in a beautiful place that had playroom and light and nature accessible to the vision. You can't control him or anyone else. But understand that that violence is feeding off your prana. Imagine that. That violence is feeding off your life force. Therefore, we can control the amount of prana we give to it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
How? She said, how? Everybody has an iPhone today. I said, take your iPhone. Put it on video. When the fears come up, and let them be, don't edit yourself. Just put it where you can film you being who you are, rightly so, during the time you're most afraid, most overwhelmed, most frustrated, most angry, whatever emotions is going on. Just film yourself for a few minutes. And after the situation abates, go back and look at that video, and you will see how much prana you are giving to the feeding of that stuff happening. Isn't that something to think about? Mm-hmm. To understand that I can control the amount of prana that someone else is inadvertently using energetically to target me. We can do that with wars as well, you know. We're the ones feeding the prana of violence. It goes both ways. And if we do not, by the change not only of our language but of our thinking, not only of our thinking but of our heart, not only of our heart but of our deep wisdom of understanding of each other as cultures and countries, but certainly as person to person, then we can mitigate the amount of prana we lend to anything that's going to use it for violence sake. That's something, isn't it, Nirmalaji? It is incredibly something. We're not telling someone all this useless language of, you know how difficult and terribly painful it is for someone to hear, you know, you're attracting this to yourself. It's an insult. If you really truly work with communities that are suffering, people who are suffering, deeply suffering, and you sit there and you tell them you're attracting this, it's your karma, you're attracting it. The summation is unintelligible. It's like getting a whiplash after you've had the whiplash. And why isn't it true? Because that's not exactly how it happens. Mr. Toll can tell you that's how it happens. I disagree with so much of what he said completely on the record. Because it doesn't happen that way. It happens a very different way. one infers a certain blame and fault. This understanding that your prana is being used, or we are wide open as a human person, and we are using the prana, it's being used because of the vulnerability and because we're not aware that it's being used, it is being used. This is different from you attract all this disaster that comes to you, and because it's your karma, you have to go through it, or you deserve it because it's your karma. It's a very different picture. I heard an amazing man that I still have a lot of respect for. One comment does not disrespect earn. However, he was telling a story. He's, anyway, a beautiful illumined soul, and I was in Australia, and he's telling a story, a man of the cloth as well. And I wouldn't tell you which faith it is because we're not criticizing anything, but I'm saying I do absolutely disagree, and we are allowed to agree or disagree with what we agree or disagree with. A woman came to him and told her about a horrific experience she had about being raped. And he counseled with a lot of people, like most people of the cloth do. People bare their souls to you because it is the safest place on God's earth. And we see that as the God inside, and we need a physicalization form in order sometimes to be consoled. And he said, and I responded to her that you have no idea how lucky you are. Now what's wrong with this picture? Tell me, how is that going to possibly help this woman who is suffering, who is absolutely in deep pain, who has just been ravaged, whose absolute self of self, the sanctity of herself, had been abused? How is this going to help her? I understood what he intended though. His intention was good. His intention was that in time to come, when you have assimilated everything that you need to assimilate about this very difficult, painful crisis in your life, and if you get through it, you will automatically have the strength to help so many women. Isn't that what he intended to say? But we can't leave out the steps and jump to the conclusion, can we? So there is a difference, no matter what our intentions are, there is a difference of being extremely clear on how we help ourselves and someone else. And the hinge pin here, the centrifugal energetic force here is simply love, compassion. We can't buy it, we can only earn it. A love that is not, that does not diminish, it's infallible, because it doesn't depend on anything else but on the understanding that everything is God. And no matter how many times I forget it, that I remember it is love. It doesn't depend on my happy marriage or my unhappy divorce. It doesn't depend on someone betraying themselves and feeling betrayed by that. It doesn't depend on any of it. It depends on one thing only, my own awareness. And where I am seated within that awareness. This is a very deep conversation, and it's a very one-sided one. But sometimes things come. Each community invokes something very special for ourselves. I don't know how it happens or why it happens. I never plan anything when I come to sit down, not even my jokes, which I sometimes wish I would remember. But I'm not Deepak. He has an amazing memory. I'm not going to tie up the loose ends because I think it's good to have dangly bits. And then our own awareness shapes it and pulls together. I had asked her to give me a clue, but I forgot why. Let's not worry about any of the things if it didn't sink or it sank the wrong way or it sank the heart or it lifted it up. Don't worry about any of it. I think it's certainly worthy of our deeper thought. And anytime you face a situation that you feel victimized by, just see if we can understand after the fact where we were at in our own energy field. And if we understood that prana was being given away to fuel that, then how do we hold our prana in a more serene or contained way? That's all. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
If we can do that, we won't have any more lives to be spent. These are a few, this is just one piece song that's coming from my new CD, Shakti Anthem. And it has English in it as well. Durga Mata, Durga Mata Ma. Durga Mata, Durga Mata Ma. Durga 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 Mata, Durga Mata Ma. Durga Mata, Durga Mata Ma. Durga 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 Durga. She is the warrior goddess. Come on, ladies. Durga Mata, Durga Mata Ma. And men. Durga Mata, Durga Mata Ma. Durga 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 Durga.
She's not up.
Durga 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 Durga. All together. Durga Mata, Durga Mata Ma. Durga Mata, Durga Mata Ma. Durga 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 Durga. Durga 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 Durga. Durga Mata, Durga Mata Ma. Durga Mata, Durga Mata Ma. Durga 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 Durga. Durga Mata, Durga Mata Ma. Durga Mata, Durga Mata Ma. Durga
Call on the goddess mother. She's the Shakti, she's the one. She has the power to protect you. She's the Shakti, she's within. She has the power to defend. She brings me to my soul, takes care of the karma, reveals the dharma. Ah ha 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 ha. She is divine. She is mine. She is the warrior goddess. Durga Mata, Durga Mata, Durga Mata, Durga, Durga, It's always a blessing to call on the Divine Mother in any name, in any form. She responds. Namah, Namah, Namah Shivaya. Namah, 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 Namah Shivaya. Namah, 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 Namah Shivaya. Namah, 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 Namah Shivaya. Namah, 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 Namah Shivaya. Shiva, 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 Namah Shivaya. Shiva, 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 Namah Shivaya. Namah, 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 Namah Shivaya. Shiva, 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 Namah Shivaya. Shiva, 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 Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, Om 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 Namah Shivaya. Namah, 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 Namah Shivaya. Namah, 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 Namah Shivaya. Shiva, 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 Namah Shivaya. Shiva, 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 Namah Shivaya. Namah, 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 Namah Shivaya. Namah, 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 Namah Shivaya. Shiva, 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 Shivaya. Shiva, 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 Shivaya. Namah, Namah, Namah Shivaya. Namah, Namah, Namah Shivaya. Namah, 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 Namah Shivaya. Shiva, 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 Namah Shivaya. Shiva, 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 Namah Shivaya. Namah, 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 Namah Shivaya. Namah, 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 Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya, Om 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 Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya. Namah, Namah, Namah Shivaya. Namah, 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 Namah Shivaya. Shiva, 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 Shivaya. Shiva, 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 Shivaya. Shiva, 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 Namah Shivaya. Shiva, 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 Namah Shivaya. Namah, 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 Namah Shivaya. Shiva.
There's really no separation between music and meditation when played like that. The mind is musical. It has all the strains of music in it. It's formed from the vibrations of the universe before they became audible. A form called Dwani, right as audibility set into the cosmos. And the mind is faster than the speed of light, so we shan't try to control it. Meditation is about understanding the mind. Mantra, man from manas. Man is the root form of manas, which means mind in Sanskrit. Mantra is about influencing the mind, affecting it in such a way that it becomes comfortable within itself. In fact, the only purpose of meditation is to untether ourselves from the mind, to capture our awareness so that it is not attached to the mind. That's all. Once we understand that, you let mind be as mind is and hold a space of fullness within awareness. And understanding when that awareness is getting tethered to the function of mind, the patterns of mind, the habits of mind. That's all. For that we need to create more space inside. Awareness is about creating space inside of us, inside of the mind. Lots and lots of space. So that we can flow in accord with everything. That is what it means to be present in the moment. The moment is very quick. Before you diagnose it and analyze it, it is gone. So that's a difficult concept for us to grasp. But what is easier to understand is that we create inner space through unattaching our awareness and ourselves from the mind and its thoughts. We're not trying to stop the thoughts, we're not trying to control them, we're not trying to reroute them, we're not trying to do anything. Because once we engage them, we are tethered, tied, in a way that is attached. So we accept and leave as is, knowing that we are investing in the sitting of awareness, in the being of awareness. I close my eyes and see the forest. I did not need my eyes to see the forest, because the light of awareness is within me. So, in that sense, meditation can easily be accomplished if we create some time, some space. The body is self-intelligence, self-organizing intelligence, and therefore, when we do repetitive things, it's called japa, that repetition helps the dhatu, the tissue memory, to remember that at a certain time there is something to be done. And whatever you're doing or getting caught in, the body itself, the tissue memory themselves call on you. Remember I said we need something to remind us to remember. So that is what practice does, and that practice is called sadhana. It's not just about doing power yoga, sweat yoga, dance yoga, happiness yoga, unhappiness yoga, stupid yoga, wonderful yoga. It's not about that. It's not about how much organic food we eat and how much we spend on it and how many practices we do that are supposed to make us whole. It's not about that. It is about the content of awareness within what we do. And that content allows us to attract or bring to us that which serves my journey, your journey, specific to that journey. And most of all, it's about creating inner space so that awareness can be free. The more freedom of awareness we have and more space we have inside, the freer we become. That is the goal of the human journey, to become ultimately, completely
free. Not free from anything, just free. So if we understand that, we do meditation in a way that serves better. And maybe spend just a few moments collecting and gathering our breath, our prana. Let us learn our prana and learn them well or learn it well. It's one prana, we share it. And yet it is complete within each one of us. Because then we would also know, if we know how to garner and strengthen and enhance our pranic force, then we would also know when to still it so that it is not used by other forces. Does that make sense? Okay. You may close one nostril and decide you want to at this time. We're just doing a minimal amount of practice. Breathe into the open nostril. Just close one side. However, we're not doing mudra or a particular practice. We're just garnering breath. Close the open side and exhale quietly from that side, the open side. Before closing it, inhale again. Close. Exhale from the other side. Inhale while it's open. Close that side. And exhale from the other. We're simply giving a signal to the channels of breath that we are gathering breath. Continue for just another minute at most. Be comfortable in the breath. Let it flow naturally without pushing it. Tilt our chin down just a tad to straighten the back, the spine. Relax your hands in your lap. Breathe quietly. Focus on the motion of breath, the gentle sound of your breathing. All else will be safe and wait for you, don't worry. Just breathe, do nothing. Breathe. Hold on to nothing. The body becomes lighter. Let the arms flow. The shoulders rest. The torso rest. The feet fall into the earth. Unwind the knees, the ankles, the legs. Know that you're completely supported by space. Just breathe and focus the mind on breathing only. We will be doing with this spirit of awareness. If you're ready and want to take a vrata, it's a vow to the self. It's not a vow to anything or anyone, but only to the divinity within. The vow of Ahimsa. The cloth is Mother Earth, Shakti, Mother Shakti. We will simply invoke the vow by blessing the ground of the mother. There are different grains and legumes that we offer just out of respect to the billions of dollars of food Mother Nature gives us for free. But the vow of Ahimsa is something incredible that can be one of the reminders, a potent reminder that helps us to remember when we need harmony, when we have gone off kilter, when something happens that throws us asunder, or at any time that nature herself has gone asunder, at any time that we have any disaster around us, within us. It's just such a beautiful practice. I've been taking it to different countries, the meditation, the mandala making. It's been very powerful. You can see much of what's been going on with the Living Ahimsa tour on the ahimsalife.com website. Literally thousands of people have taken the vow of Ahimsa around the world and are using this work to engage the community in the one of spirit, in the understanding that we have crossed the phenomenal threshold of time into the timeless, and that our offerings and our sankalpa, that intent for harmony, goes way beyond just self, the family, and even the community. It binds and bonds us, or bonds us, not binds us, it bonds us to the spirit of the one, the amazing investment of our time. And it helps us all to remember from any ancestry, any culture, any tradition that we come from, that we are one. And that the time for all differentiation in terms of oneness, meaning duality, is finished. We understand and respect our individual forms, individual differences that we have from tradition to tradition, person to person. And that is to be respected. But because of that, we understand the one, that we all share and are one. We are not a part of the one, but a complete one. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. If you take something out of that one, you're giving something of ourself to someone else. That person receives the whole, and we still remain whole. If you light a candle, 20 candles from the light of one candle, it does not take away from the candle that lit the candles. And that is the one. That is who we are as one. The vow of Ahimsa is very simple, and I don't want you to think it's a religious event. My tradition of the Vedas is universal. It helps us to understand our cosmic and incredible nature of being human as well. And it does not take away from your own tradition. In fact, in many cases, it has helped people to reunite with the understanding and intelligence of their own ancestral ground. So I will just come and put the first grain and bless it with a diya, the ghee lamp, which is made from the cow's butter. And we'll say a prayer for peace. And anyone who wants to come up and lay a few grains in any order you want to, while you're taking your vow, you're welcome to do so. You can come up a few at a time, because we have lots of bags of beautiful grains that Paula and Mary have prepared and spent the day, and the other wonderful aides whom we have to thank for your beautiful service. So the vow goes like this. I'll recite it, and then you could recite it after me. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make in a harmony my first priority.
making harmony my first priority.
I take the vow of Ahimsa
I take the vow of Ahimsa
in my thoughts,
in my thoughts,
my speech,
and
my action.
my action.
I take the vow of Ahimsa.
I take the vow of
I
Ahimsa,
make in harmony my first priority.
making harmony my first priority.
I take the vow of Ahimsa
I take the vow of Ahimsa
in my thoughts, speech, and action.
in my thoughts, speech, and action.
I take the vow of Ahimsa.
I take the vow of Ahimsa,
I make in harmony my first priority.
making harmony my first priority.
I take the vow of Ahimsa
I take the vow of Ahimsa
in my thoughts, speech, and action.
in my thoughts, speech, and action.
Tadastu. So be it.
So be it.
So I will just bless the ground, and then we can come in groups. And those of you who may need aid in getting here, we could help you while you're standing up to put the grains down. So don't hurt your knees or anything by trying to do what you may not be able to do. And don't feel obligated to do this. This is a personal matter to be taken at such time as you feel prepared to do so. And then you use it every day, 20 times a day if you have to, every time your neighbor comes out. Just testing to see if you're listening. Anytime you may confront a situation that is confrontational, anytime you feel your ire going up, anytime you start feeling that irritability or fear or whatever, just recite the mantra. Because why are we doing this? We're doing it to train and train memory just like mantras do. It is a mantra that may it remind me of the reminder when I need to be reminded. Before rather than after. And after a while it begins to happen before the incident. You understand? Whenever you lose your cool, Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
I'll do a brief prayer, peace mantra. Asatoma Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityoma Amritangamaya, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, Shri Guru Gyo Namaha, Hari Om. And we'll all recite it for each other. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make in harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make in harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make in harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make in harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make in harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make in harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make in harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make inner harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make inner harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa, my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make inner harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make inner harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make inner harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make inner harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make inner harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make inner harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make inner harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make inner harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions.
You're welcome.
I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make inner harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make inner harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make inner harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make inner harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow. Do not feel forced. Just be in your own awareness and self. Do as you want to do. If you feel that you need to come back and repeat, you can do so, and then we will do a closing ceremony so that our vows are sealed and held in this incredible space of sanctity within, and invoke the blessing of the Divine Being.
Take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions.
I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make inner harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make inner harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make inner harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make inner harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thoughts, speech, and actions. So be it. After we've blessed the mandala, you may take as many photos as you want of it. Let's hold that space of sankalpa and intent now. The mandala is created in our heart. And it is amazing how much it tells about the community that creates it, and how similar mandalas are in different regions depending on the collective heart of that community around the world. Really transcends our cultures. It's phenomenal. I'd love to see all the men up here together. We've never had a mandala of only men. And I know I'm choreographing a bit, but everyone asks me, is it only women? So I would just love to have the amazing grace of all of the Shiva in the room. Because us women want to know that we are being absolutely supported by the energy of our men. Om Namah Shivaya. Sam, our youngest sadhaka, he started chanting when he was 5 years old. Paula wanted a mantra for him, and I gave it to him over the phone. Is he willing to recite it for us? You can't, you forgot it? Pardon?
What was it again?
Which one did I? Which one did I? The mantra was one.
Yeah.
Om Bhurvhuva Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. I would like to bring Swami Nirmalanandaji up to bless the completion of the mandala. Gananam Tva Ganapadigum Avamahe Kavim Kavinam Upamasravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashranvanutibhisida Sadhanam Mahaganapataye Namaha Ekadantaya Vidmahe Vakratundaya Dhimahi Tanno Dantiv Prachodayata. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I take the vow of Ahimsa. I make in harmony my first priority. I take the vow of Ahimsa in my thought, speech, and action. So be it. The dust. Om Namah Shivaya. We just stay light. It reminds us of the light we already have in ourselves. Om Namah Shivaya. Never cute twice. Double dip. Seconds. Thank you for your loving presence. Thank you. Asheville, wow. Om
Women, do you want to hear your anthem? Sure. From the new CD? Okay.
And I want you pounding away on that. It's a tempting song.
Rock it out.
Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Jai Ma. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Jai Ma. All together.
Jai Ma, Jai Jai Ma.
Men too can sing. Support your women. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Jai Ma. Mother Shakti of this earth.
Yeah.
Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Jai Ma. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Jai Ma. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Jai Ma. Call on your mother, the divine mother. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Jai Ma. Okay, here it comes. You've earned your place in this universe. Don't tolerate the passions of hate, abuse and misuse. No need to fight for equal rights. You already have superior rights. Of passage to the womb, to the path of passage, to the stories stored in the moon. Of passage to the stories stored in the womb of Mother Earth. Needs an orchestra. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Jai Ma. 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 All together. Women, I call on you. Stand up and face your power. Women, I call on you. Stand up and face your power. Don't leave it for another hour. That time is now, no need to fear. Remember who you are. Goddess, Mother, Shakti of this earth. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Jai Ma. 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 Mother! Jai Ma, Jai Jai Ma. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Jai Ma. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Jai Ma. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai 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 Ma. That's your anthem. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Thank you. Maybe just sit for a moment, collect ourselves. Thank you so much, each one of you. Beautiful contribution. And thank you all for coming and being so kind and accommodating. I always get so much blessings from you, so much love, that it recharges my inner space to go out and share that which you give me to so many who really need it. And need is not just those we feel sorry for. The greater need are those that we may be tempted to hate. So when we get this much love given to us, let us please preserve some of it for those people and beings who really need love. We may be tempted to not love, to despise, to push aside, to hate, to judge, but those are the ones who really need love. And if we can do that, we will grow. And however we get there, let us please get there in time to make a difference. I remind myself of this every day, because that's the hardest threshold to cross. Om Namah Shivaya. The dust. We are grateful to have the presence of Swamini Nirmalanandaji here tonight to bless us. She has done such an incredible and remarkable work in yoga in this country, and her work is spread worldwide. Her embodiment work in yoga is simply brilliant, but intuitive as well. She does have incredible divine grace that flows through her. We're so thankful to have you here, Nirmala. Om Namah Shivaya. Many of the instructors who do Wise Earth Ayurveda had been trained by her as well in yoga. So many of our Wise Earth people. Oh. We don't want to say goodnight. I want to do the rest of my album. But I need Bono's stage for that. And I need Tina Turner to do my backup. The last light of the diya will bless and hold together all of our sankalpa, our vows. May it all be held in the space of the divine. May we know we are not separate from the divine. We collect ourselves in a moment. Thank you for your grace. Peace be your journey.